Well, greetings to each of you, and welcome to the Shakedown, a podcast about corrections, by corrections, and for corrections. I am your host, Aaron Dawson, and as always, it is an honor and a privilege to be here with you on yet another episode as we consider what in the world is going on in the world of corrections. Just taking a snapshot look at some recent headlines, news articles that have come out about the world of corrections, and seeing what we can glean from that. Something that is always looming in the hearts and minds of jail administrators around the country is staffing issues. How can we acquire and maintain our staffing numbers? And I know that I've talked to some jails around the country that they're doing fine in that area. That they're not having trouble filling staffing situations, but the experience level and the, shall we say, quality of staff they're receiving has been difficult. And then in other jails, just having enough people in the positions has been a consistent and constant challenge. And one state decided that one thing they were going to do is they were going to lower the eligible hiring age. And I know there are many agencies that maybe 21 is as young as you can apply, or maybe it's 19. But this state lowered the hiring age to 18. And they saw when they began to hire 18-year-olds, that in the first year that they multiplied by 17 the number of people that they had apply and begin their career in corrections. Now, there's a few benefits and a few things that we could consider as maybe a hindrance. The benefit is that if you have the hiring age at 18, you have folks that have just graduated high school. They haven't begun a career. They haven't necessarily started going to college, pursuing a career of a different direction, and they're at a point in their life where maybe they're not married. They don't have a family. They don't have necessarily a home and a mortgage on their home, so forth and so on. So their financial responsibilities and their life direction is not as ingrained and set. So you get them earlier in their professional career, so to speak. And so that's an awesome opportunity, because it allows them to establish a career, your agency, your facility. So that is awesome. Often, if you have somebody that they have to be 21, well, they've graduated high school and they're 3 or 4 years into a career. And they've developed some experience, some skills, and some seniority, and so they may not be as likely to leave that to come work at an agency, a law enforcement agency, a jail. Now, of course, the downside of that is that you have people that are younger, their life experience is younger, their maturity levels are a little less, and so that means that it requires a greater effort on the hiring agency to invest in these new hires. The state that did this, their training program consisted of 120 hours of training that these new hires had to participate in before they hit the floor. So that's a lot of training to invest in folks at the front end. But they found that 120-hour training prepared these officers to be effective on the floor. The other side of that training was not just the initial training, but that they were paired with seasoned and experienced officers that could continue that FTO process and make sure that these officers not only had the head knowledge, the cognitive knowledge, but the practical knowledge of being able to work this out. And so this state saw this opening up their hiring age bracket. They saw this overall as a positive experience. And there may be some of you out there that say, hey, we tried that and boy, it was a train wreck. There may be others of you that say, well, that may be something we need to look at and consider. But this state saw it as a plus, as a benefit. Another thing that has come down is that the 11th Circuit, the District Court for the Northern District of Georgia, the 11th Circuit, saw a case. This case is called Jared versus the Sheriff of Polk County. Many agencies, many facilities, they have volunteer instructors that come in. Maybe they're ministers that do religious services, or maybe it's GED programs, or maybe it's a jobs-centered program. Maybe addiction recovery programs, whatever the case may be. Many agencies across the country have these volunteers that come in to teach, to train, to help their inmates, and it's something that the staff doesn't have to see after. Well, how much freedom do these instructors have to teach and to train? Are there limitations on what they can say and what they can't say? Are there limitations on what they can teach on and how they can promote maybe their personal beliefs that they may have? And what is the screening process like to grant these folks entry to our facilities? Are they informed ahead of time of any limitations that may be on them as they're instructing or they're leading in worship or whatever the case may be? Well, in this case, there was a volunteer, and he was coming in conducting church services. Well, there was an issue with some of the inmates and something he said in one of the services, and so this minister, this volunteer, was dismissed and denied re-entry. Well, he sued, claiming that this dismissal violated his free speech rights under the First Amendment. Well, when it went to district court, they sided against this instructor, and they said that it did not violate his First Amendment rights due to the nature that it was in a jail, and so they rejected his claims and threw it out. Well, it went on. It was appealed, and it went on to the district court for the Northern District of Georgia, and they reviewed the case, and they said they used a test that is usually used for government employees, and they, based on that test, it's called the Pickering test, they said that his speech was not constitutionally protected, and so they sided again with the original ruling. Well, it made it all the way to the 11th Circuit, the United States Court for Appeals, and they reviewed the case. Well, they ruled that the Pickering test was not appropriate because he wasn't an employee, he was a volunteer. And they found that based upon the screening process, what the instructors were told when they originally applied to get access to teach or to conduct worship services, it wasn't clear in that paperwork and the documentation that these are the things you can say, these are the things you can't say, so forth and so on. And so they found that the dismissal of this instructor could in fact be a violation of his First Amendment rights, and the fact that they didn't articulate what they would or would not accept caused an issue as well. So after reading this, it made me think that it may be a good idea for each agency, for each administrator to look at, okay, if we allow instructors into our facility, what do we tell them they can do? What do we tell them they can't? Do we articulate how, if there is a violation of that, the process of addressing that issue, so forth and so on? Because certainly you don't want it to end up in court and then it be a bigger issue than that, and maybe we're facing litigation over something like this. But those are just like I said, a snapshot of some things that are going on in the world of corrections. I appreciate you being with us. Obviously, if you're listening to this or watching this, you know where to find us, but get the word out there. Point folks to the shakedown.org. They can listen to the podcast. If they prefer a bit more video format, they can go to YouTube, search the Shakedown Podcast NIJO, and they will find all 3 seasons of this. You're listening to this or watching this on YouTube, hit that link, that like button, hit that subscribe. It helps us a great deal. And as always, it has been a pleasure and a privilege to be with you. Look forward to being with you again real soon. But in the meantime, stay sharp, stay safe, stay vigilant. Godspeed.